Peter, one thing struck me in your outlook, which is that you say President Trump's hold of his base will deliver a win in 2020 because they remain unmoved by the economic outlook. If President Trump is mindful of this, do you actually expect a further escalation in the trade war from here, never mind getting a deal before 2020?
Yeah, likely. I mean, I think it's a very important part that, there's been a false narrative that Trump and the GDP growth are sort of inevitably locked together, and therefore Trump is going to make a deal in order to support the U.S. growth situation and such. We think that it's probably, against his best interest to make a quick deal just yet. First of all, the longer he delays, the more likely the Fed is going to cut interest rates, and that will help boost, the equity markets and have a sense of richness across the board. And number two is that heading into a very, difficult 2020 presidential election cycle, to be able to make a deal, have lower Fed interest rates, would give the U.S. economy a real boost. And I think so strategically, I think it's way too early for Trump to play his trade card. The other thing is that what we're not seeing is that when we get weak U.S. data, we're not seeing his popularity go down. If you look at farmers, particularly the ones that are on the front lines for the U.S. China trade war, they're actually their support of Trump has actually increased recently. So it's not going anywhere. So he can rely on his core to be there regardless of how the economy is doing.
Yeah, interesting, Peter. I mean, to that point, I was interested to see President Trump acknowledging almost the damage that he's doing, not necessarily to the economy, but certainly to stock markets. He mentioned yesterday on Twitter, in fact, I think it was addressing reporters, talked about how the Dow would be a lot higher if it weren't for his trade war. I wonder how that plays into it, the fact that he realizes this and still the path remains the same.
Well, he's characterizing himself as sort of a saintly figure, that somehow his sort of holy war in trade is benefiting the long run of the U.S. economy and not short-term wealthy people's gains. And I think that's sort of a mischaracteristic. He's also doing a very good job of characterizing the Fed as the custodians for the health of the U.S. economy and putting it on their shoulders and saying that they have to cut interest rates in order to keep it supportive. And it's his job to sort of handle sort of the day-to-day operations and the nuances, but it's really the Fed that's important to the economy, and this makes it more and more difficult for the Fed to become apolitical and keep their independence.